Yo, what the heck is going on, everyone? We got a long journey ahead of us to find out what this card can handle and what can it not handle. And I've been kind of stirring on wanting a game that can push this card graphically and really kind of, give me that wow blown away factor. So first, right? Alright, so best man. Okay, let's do this. The 15 most graphically demanding PC games. For PC. So most graphically demanding. No, we don't want to see that. Ryzen Zero Dawn is number 10. PC 2020. Okay, so the game's 2 years old. Let's see what it looks like.
Peggy 16.
The massacre was only the beginning. Who did this to us? Who attacked the tribe?
Holy. Not even saying it had ray tracing. Nice.
Peggy 16.
The massacre was only the beginning. Who did this to us? Who attacked the tribe?
See, I don't want to play a game I've already played. Ride 4. Okay. We're at 3090, baby. We're the best of the 30 series cards. So, oh, I'm gonna be honest. I can't play a PC game. A 3060 card. Damn. This little stretch in the range about who has the bigger balls right there. Woof. It looks so cool when it bounces off that tire with sparks. It's crazy. Damn, the reflective mirrors look so good. From back in the day, them just being like blur. And now it'll be like actually usable to see what side they're coming up on you on. That's awesome. Oh shit, he's dead. Looks good. But unfortunately, as good as it is, it's not my cup of tea. The Ascent? No, I don't want a top-down shooter. I don't care what the hell the specs are. Beat it. Great game. Wow. Alright, let's see what control looks like. RTX tested. Let's see what we're in store for. Now I already beat this game on PS4, PS5. Yo, what's good, guys? How are you? Oh, you guys did pop up. But I already beat this game on PS4 and PS5. So to play it again is like, but let's see what it looks like. And the song is good.
It's fair to say that Quantum Break, Remedy's last title, split opinion quite a bit. An interesting concept conceived to fit alongside Microsoft's games and TV vision, it had a distinct art style and a feel to it that I personally really enjoyed. It's somewhat fitting then that Control takes some of those elements and transports them into a game that is as unique and exciting as it is. In Control, you play as Jessie Faden, a woman determined she meets a weird and wonderful janitor called RT.
See, I don't really care what you say about the game. There we go. I want to see, like, what the game is doing in PC.
Hello, everybody, and welcome.
Hey.
I am Hayden Dingman. I'm here with Adam Patrick Murray.
Hello.
And I'm here with Brad Charkis.
I am very excited about this. I've been waiting for this game for a long time.
We are here to play. You want to introduce it, Brad?
Control by Remedy.
Yeah, Control.
Max Payne 4?
No,
PS5
but
can't
it
do
is.
It's Control.
Say,
PS5 does
2.
do this.
Awesome. This is my first time seeing it in action, too, so I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, so they haven't. I don't know if you have followed Control or how much you follow Control.
I don't know if any of you guys know what Control is, but Control was an amazing game that didn't get enough credit. Amazing game. PS4 Pro was struggling with it on frame rate wise. PS5 hit it just right. I'm sure PC is going to look phenomenal. But the story wise, it came out around The Last of Us 2, and I remember everyone was complaining about Last of Us 2, and I'm like, man, if you think Last of Us 2 story will take you for a loop, this one makes absolutely no sense.
But they, Remedy has basically said, hey, this was our like draft for Alan Wake 2 at one point, and then we reworked it into Control.
Wow, I had no idea.
At a different time. And you can tell there are explicit references to Alan Wake in this game that we don't need to spoil.
There was a whole Alan Wake DLC.
Oh, but there are more than a few references.
Do you feel like you need to play Alan Wake to understand Control?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
So Control is basically, have you seen Annihilation, either of you? Did you see Annihilation, Brad?
Probably not.
Okay, so Annihilation was an adaptation of a book trilogy, or the first book in a trilogy, the Southern Reach trilogy by Jeff Vandermeer, which is basically like the genre is called New Weird, and it is sort of like cosmic horror, except also sort of just like a lot of government bureaucracy stuff.
Brandon, I'm on
stuff that's like
PS5 rarely.
Anyways,
I just got this
I have
hog.
not seen that movie.
This is a
The stream never felt better.
So it's not an adaptation. They have
I wanna
referenced
see what
Annihilation
we
while
can
making
do.
this game, and honestly, after reading the books, so there's a character in the Southern Reach trilogy that goes by the name.
I mean, from
Control.
PS4
So they,
Pro
like,
to
really
PS5,
have
this
an
game
unofficial
looked
adaptation thing going
like a
with
whole
this.
nother level step
But
up.
basically,
I'm sure
you
this
play
would look
as
phenomenal on
Jesse
PC.
Faden, who gets into this building in Manhattan that is called the Bureau. It is the Federal Bureau of Control. It is a government agency, and they watch over what they call altered world objects or altered objects. I can look it up. There are a lot of collectibles in this game, similar to Quantum Break. And I should.
This isn't really a PC
review. The things that they've done with these collectibles are actually really fascinating. A lot of them are FMV with.
Another 17-minute video, probably just some walking around talking.
We'll get into all the detail
here
on
we
this
go. Perfect.
later, of course, since you've studied the presentation in great detail. So we have some better ideas on how it works. But basically, it's, obviously things like water or whatever, we've seen reflections there. But then now you see it on glass. So transparent glass. You actually can see through the glass, but also see the reflection of the room and your character in the glass, which is something that would be impossible to do with screen space reflections.
Yeah. And, the thing is, unlike Battlefield 5, and they, that's another game that also had transparency reflections and, reflections on opaque objects as well.
Wow.
There is a lot more surfaces in this game kind of taking place in this, what looks to be an underground complex, and with modern materials, modern plastics, a lot of modern polished metals, and no wood, really, like we saw in Battlefield, or just these outdoor environments. All those things that where developers are faking it in the past with screen space reflections or with cube maps, where you're kind of used to it. Now all these same materials which populate the scene in its entirety are being reflected in a more realistic manner. And I think the one thing you keep pointing out and talking to me about were these kind of pipes, these semi-polished metal pipes all throughout the environment. And usually you would just see a tiny bit of screen space reflection on the side of it, maybe the underside of it. And then the other top half portion of it as it rounds off would just be a cube map.
That's right.
But now the entire circumference of this thing is just covered in reflections, and it looks even more metallic than it did before. Not in a bad way, but in a more realistic way.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, that's the thing, right? Is a lot of games still have a lot of more rough materials like dirt, wood, and other things such as that. The way Control is designed is you do get so many shiny and sort of artificial materials everywhere. Well, artificial only in the sense that it's sort of more man-made instead of naturally occurring.
Yeah.
But these things are perfect for this sort of technology. It just shows off the feature of it so well. And toggling between the two, you can see where SSR is applied. Looks like they have some cube maps as well, underlying, of course, which is common.
Yeah, to fall back on.
But, switching back over to RT, it's just a night and day difference. And that also includes things like, the sort of, I guess you could say, the ambient contact shadows and shading. And, of course, the lighting as well. But, yes, the contact shadows.
Yeah, so, the interesting thing is here...
Yeah, that's nice. If I didn't play it already twice, I'd be more into it. Hitman 3... is number 10 on the list. Blah, 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 blah. No, we're going to move on from this. This doesn't seem like it's gonna push the limits. Hitman has never like been a groundbreaking game in general. Shadow of Tomb Raider. No. But maybe. Let's see what they say about it. $2018? Definitely not. But let's see what it does anyway.
Okay, this should work. All right.
Pass. I need something. No offense to Shadow of Tomb Raider, I played Tomb Raider, but again, it's not a groundbreaking game. Red Dead 2. A serious workout. Let's see what Red Dead 2 is all about. I don't see the light yet. I haven't found a game that completely like blew me away, where I sat back and was like, holy shit, I've made it. You know? Yeah, the high frame rates are great in like Warzone and other games. Okay, great. I can move around faster, I can do stuff better. That's great. But give me something that's gonna make me sit back. Like PlayStation has done to me for years, and go, wow. When the next PlayStation comes out and I play that first AAA title game and I go, holy shit. You know, give me that for this. And then I'll be happy. PC trailer. Let's see what we got. Okay, that was a little wow, but that was a little bit of wow. What Red Dead 2 is... Okay, let's see what Red Dead 2 is.
It's
like
finally
to play
happened.
PC.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is now out on PC. If you want to know our opinions on the game, you can still go check out our full review from last year. That hasn't changed. But I got Michael Hyam here, who has had a chance to check out the PC version, and that is what we're going to talk about today, is how the PC version stacks up. Michael, what do you think?
The PC version, you know, if you can get it to run, it's a great version of the game. There are several things that may attract you to the PC version. The first thing I want to talk about is graphics options. Now, whenever there's a proper PC port of any big console game or game that was exclusive to consoles, graphics options are always a big deal. Like GTA 5, Red Dead Redemption 2 has so many options in the menu. You don't have to worry about all of them, but if you're into tinkering your settings, of course there's native 4K support, there's 1440p, even ultra wide support. I play in 21:9, and it's nice to play Red Dead Redemption 2 with the vastness of the open world in ultra widescreen, and it looks great in that regard. Of course, you can change all of the quality settings as well, texture, shadows, lighting, all that good stuff. Draw distances have been improved, and there's also things like tessellation, global illumination. So the whole roster of graphics options are there. And if you look at the PC requirements and recommended specs, they're not too high, but if you want to have all these bells and whistles, I would recommend that you have a very high-end PC. I'm working with an Intel Core i7-7700K and an NVIDIA RTX 2080. And I'm playing in 1080p ultra-wide, which is a little bit more than standard 1080p in terms of pixel density. And I have everything cranked up to either ultra or high. And I'm getting decent frame rates, about 60 to 80.
Okay.
Anything beyond that, like if you try and do native 4K on PC, you're going to need maybe a 2080 Ti. And of course, you want to bump up some of those quality settings as well. So it is, if you want all that stuff, you're going to need to have a fairly high-end PC.
Yeah, I actually did a couple of tests with one of our office PCs, which has a 2080 Ti, and I also tried to max out everything. I turned everything as high as I could possibly turn it, and I was getting, like max 80, minimum was like 40, and you could definitely see it fluctuating at points as I was playing, but it is, ooh boy, is it a demanding game if you want to try and turn on everything.
Speaking of the game being demanding, I think one of the most important aspects of this being a PC version is frame rate. Now the console versions were locked at about 30 frames per second, which is fine. It works well for this style of game because this is not a competitive FPS where frame rate is going to be an inherent advantage. But it is nice to play this game at a smooth 60 or higher frame rate. I have a 144 hertz monitor, and boy, things look a lot smoother. So I think that's an aspect that a lot of PC gamers are going to want to get out of this. Now, the PC version looks incredible. So does the Xbox One X and PS4 Pro versions. I would say the PC version, if you have that high-end PC, it can look better than those console versions. But they all are visually stunning, regardless. So here the leg up is having that added frame rate. And, it helps in combat. We were talking about how maybe it's a little bit easier to aim now that you have a smoother frame rate. You're not fighting the game itself in terms of trying to get headshots or moving around the environment a little bit more, especially when the action gets hot and there's a lot going on. It's a little bit easier to just kind of take in the moment when you're in the middle of a huge firefight when you have higher frame rates. So that's a cool advantage to have that's inherent to a PC version. There are some visual bugs though. I noticed that trees sometimes just get like glitchy and start fizzing out in the out in the environment. Didn't happen that often. It wasn't game breaking or anything, but it was kind of noticeable when I'm just chilling in the camp and I just see trees freaking out and stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think it's because it looks so good most of the time that small stuff like that really isn't a big deal.
Right.
It's a little more noticeable in a game like this.
I don't know if this is specific to the PC version, but I did notice that when I go into first-person view and I'm talking to some of the NPCs, sometimes their mouths don't move when they're saying something. That's a little weird, but again, it is a rare occasion, and when it does happen, it's noticeable. But other than that, there isn't much in terms of visual bugs.
One thing I did notice that I'm not sure how prevalent it is, but I noticed that there were some animations that were actually a little lower frame rate. Like I think the strap on Arthur's gun was actually like the animation on it seemed a little bit lower than 60 frames a second, which is something that you never notice on console. That's a little bit noticeable on PC when you're running at higher frames. For the most part, though, like that, I just noticed it with that one example. I don't know how prevalent that is, but that's a minor thing that's worth mentioning.
Okay. One thing to note about the graphics options, though, is that there are multiple options for anti-aliasing, which is an important setting to use. Note that MSAA is the most demanding, so if you're going to crank that to either 4 times or 8 times to get the full effect, you're going to take a big cut in frame rate. So what I've been doing is using temporal anti-aliasing and then cranking up the temporal sharpness to kind of get rid of that softer look that it may give if you don't crank up the sharpness. Now, the reason why the PC version and all its graphics options are important is because a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 has to do with your relationship to the world. When you're horseback riding from one town to another, you're soaking in the vastness of the open world and just how pretty it looks, how the sunset looks, how the sun blasts through the trees when you're hunting and stuff like that. And a lot of it has to do with the cinematic quality of its cutscenes. And I think that
this game is a big deal.
Playing
on PC,
on a PS4 Pro or Xbox One X version, those qualities shine through, and it does as well on PC. So there's no huge advantage in terms of, is this a different experience on PC when it comes to visuals? Like, well, if you played on the upgraded consoles, other than frame rate, I think that you are getting mostly the same type of experience.
Well, then one of the things that is potentially different on PC is mouse and keyboard support. How did that feel?
Keyboard and mouse controls are important to me, even for games that aren't competitive FPSs. And I think they've translated well to Red Dead 2. Some of the menu stuff is weird because when you pull up a menu and you want to look at different items, my instinct is to hover over the items with the mouse cursor to kind of highlight it and see like its details and stuff. The problem is that the game doesn't recognize you hovering over them as switching to I want to look at what this item is, and instead you would have to use the arrow keys to kind of shuffle through your menu, but not WASD. So that's kind of your only option by default. And I think that's a little weird because I would rather have it if I hover my mouse over it. It's like, okay, I can highlight
nobody
it.
Cares.
Maybe fumbling through the controller for the first couple of hours. Now, when it comes to controller support, though, that control
is the launch day crashes that the game was having. Seemed like it was having a bit of a rough launch. Did you have any of that in your experience?
Yeah, but they got like okay PCs. They're not running anything crazy, so Final Fantasy won't do it. Metro Exodus. I heard this is one of the best PC games to get. Oh. That's the behave stick right there. Oh. Are you like paintballing him? Okay, they make sure you're well equipped. When you lost?
I can't hear you. Come in. Fuck you,
The VIII stick.
You made a mistake coming here. I surrender!
Looks pretty damn good. You can change your stuff on the fly. I'm not one of them!
Ah, there you are. You need help digging yourself out? No? Come out then. So, there's probably no...
Oh, we didn't want to see his cutscene, alright. It's our map. Man, this game looks pretty damn good. No. This game looks really good. Graphically and all that. Wow. Well, that's on the list. Number 4 out of 15, Metro Exodus. That's on the list. Dying Light 2. Yeah, Ultra Size, you'll need top of the line hardware.
I land a flying, two-footed kick into a bandit and send him screaming off the edge of a roof and onto the zombie-filled streets below. Over the past 50 hours of Dying Light 2, this has become my singular goal.
Well, this looks like shit,
Kick dudes off roofs. The city is in peril, I have a dozen unfinished side quests in my journal, and my map is filled with...
Yeah, but what are you running on? Like fucking... Oh, here we go. Here we go. It's the review we all need to watch right now.
Popping out for a bite to eat has taken on a brand new meaning with Dying Light, and now its bigger, darker, and more dystopian sequel. Light and dark plays a big part in this vampiric tale, least of which includes ray tracing additions for now-gen consoles and higher-end PC. So let's sample those bits and bytes of Dying Light 2. Parkouring our way through the console and PC versions here, we have a collection of modes and settings to work through. You can check out the detailed review of this game over on IGN elsewhere. But with the last gen versions not ready in time for the coverage of this review, we instead will concentrate on the Series X, the PS5 and Series S, along with our AMD powered PC in the RX6800. First up, the 3 modes that they offer on PS5 and Series X at least from that in-house proprietary Chrome engine or C engine. Now 2 of the 3 modes are 30 FPS, with quality the mode boasting ray tracing that adds a full contact hardening sun shadows, enabling soft dithered shadows across both static and dynamic objects. These are a big increase in the quality and accuracy of shadows and can drastically change certain scenes due to the upgrade, but they are expensive. In addition, ambient occlusion of a screen space variety and screen space shadows all combine to create more accurate lighting and darker tones in recessed areas in both indoor and outdoor sections. Reflections also offer better quality than other modes and may also be ray tracing based on the PC menus, but these all appear to be screen space in nature even on the PC. Now, although all these are identical in quality and coverage in Series X and PS5, there are a few minor bugs and crop up in certain elements between each version. You can see some examples on screen, but I'll touch on that later in the review. Next is resolution, which turns these RT shadows off, greatly reduces the ambient occlusion to low now. This lack of depth and grounding of objects in the scene does stand out and again highlights some odd here, meaning FSR balanced at 1440p still offers great IQ with those higher ray trace settings on, or 4K FSR balanced at high settings being close to or above 60 FPS with ray tracing on. These are all a necessity on this card, and even cards even more powerful than this. The level of visual boost you will see will vary, and for me the cost of performance is higher than the benefit, but the choice to pick is best, and at times it can offer a welcome visual boost to a game that can be a varied selection of high highs and low lows. It is a big improvement visually low over the 2015 original. The game does have some minor bugs that can happen with shadow map disparities on PS5 modes remaining high across all modes, higher than Series X at least. Series X sometimes has better shadows as well. Errors in menu descriptions to those memory leaks on DirectX 12 Ultimate. Be aware that this does not happen in either DX12 or DX11 renderers, with the game supports fully, but you need greater than 8GB at the moment. If you do have any similar issues as I've covered here, then use DX11 or DX12 with older cards, and in AMD's case, remain with DX12, as the AMD DX11 driver is still poor, and here on my RX6800 at high settings that match console performance levels at 1080p, we can see free performance improvements moving from DX11 to DX12 upwards of 25%. So do that if on AMD, and you may even gain some in reverse on Nvidia cards, older cards where RT is not an option. As a summary then, the game feels very European, which I love, with an RPG character
European
that has some excellent motion capture and facial animation. And
this game feels very Australian.
The title will draw many in. Art and design are flamboyant, but mixed with such a big game and simply huge delivery schedule, the level of polish can vary from texture to characters. But the leap up in visual and technical accomplishment is impressive, and the PC does offer greater choice and refinement of all of those assets and aspects. The only issue, I think, is the cost will be too high for many to reach or want to spend over those IQ and performance gains when you tweak those menu settings. The console performance is exceptional and should be applauded how well it runs in all modes across all tested consoles. The Series S does feel a rung down though, with no modes to offer and not even a 60 FPS option, which even at 900p and other reduced settings,
like original Doom,
to some.
or since getting this PC Doom,
break post-release.
Which version
Those
of Doom?
Last gen versions though may be another story entirely, but for now gen and PC the choice is good and the performance is exceptional. Just be aware of those PC demands on those ray traced options. And that's it for another deep dive into console and PC performance. Remember, if you like what we do here on IGN,
you can give us a follow, and yeah. So this is number 2 on our list for Dying Light. Already have it, played half of it, got bored of it. so I won't do that again. Far Cry 6 is number 2 on what they're giving us, thegamer.com, as the best PC's most intensive graphics list. You'll need an RTX 3090 to play this game at 4K. Well, Jeff, how convenient. Let's see what Far Cry 6. Far Cry 6 PC, bam. And of course somebody's gonna be like, yeah, I have some like 5-year-old PC. I'm gonna run these max specs on. Yeah. Bam, bam. PC features overview trailer. PC gamer. Overview trailer. Alright. In 4K, let's see what this guy's got. Wow, looks good.
Ubisoft Kiev is developing the PC version of Far Cry 6 in collaboration with teams in Toronto and Montreal.
Great.
Far Cry 6 has a rich history and culture, and with new technology, the game promises to be more immersive and beautiful than ever.
Wow. It's a good
We
promise.
value PC gamers and want to deliver the best possible experience for high-end PCs. To achieve this, we've invested a lot of effort in optimizing for the PC platform, so players can enjoy a smooth experience and uncapped frame rates. With our built-in benchmark tool, players can test out their settings in a controlled environment. They can compare previous results on a graph, and also check current VRAM usage. The game is packed with high-tech features, like ray tracing, Fidelity FX, and many others. Speaking of improved visuals, the latest graphics API enables fully utilized supports for hardware ray tracing. Extended graphics settings include ray-traced reflections and shadows to further enhance visuals, and Fidelity FX to fine-tune the balance between visuals and performance. The graphics settings can be previewed for a better user experience. An ultra-wide screen or a high-resolution multi-monitor setup is also supported. The game is capable of handling any resolution and aspect ratio. High refresh rate, smooth gaming with no tearing at low latency. This is top-tier picture. Of course, frame rate lock and adaptive resolution options are there too. For players who would like to max out detailed textures, they can also download an HD textures pack. Player control is greatly improved by using event-based input handling. Those who like a more personalized input can benefit from customizable controls for both gamepad and keyboard and mouse. Additionally, the latter has secondary button support for all remappable actions and mouse acceleration toggle. We also implemented multiple accessibility features to make the game more inclusive for every player, offering features like closed captions, colorblind mode, and text-to-speech for all supported languages.
Stay away from those big cannons.
With photo mode, players can capture their own in-game shots using options such as live studio mode, character poses and emotes, weather lighting presets, as well as logos, models, and particles. Cooperation with AMD in implementing the latest features results in a smooth gaming experience with consistent FPS and amazing visual quality. Overall, the game will take advantage of any hardware you run. From affordable to high-power PC rigs, everyone will enjoy the experience. For our dedicated and enthusiastic audience, Far Cry 6 is pushing the boundaries of technical and visual gaming quality to make the PC version the best it can be. Far Cry 6 will be available on October 7th.
Wow. Not bad. Not bad at all.
All I wanted to be was a soldier.
What does this maniac say about it?
Wear the uniform, serve my country. Found out the only kind of soldier Castillo wants.
I don't need to hear what this maniac thinks about it. I've played Far Cry. Good game. I beat a couple of them. Ooh. So, let me get back on here. Good game. But the combat was always very stale. Like, the AI is just, like, so boneless in Far Cry games. Far Cry Criminal was, like, lame. Far Cry 3 was the best Far Cry. After that, it just went downhill. Cyberpunk is number 1. $2077. I almost put 66. PC enter. Let's see. I can make my junk again on live stream. It was released like 3 days after the other video.
Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
The
Number
quality
one.
of an open-world RPG often isn't defined by the strength of its main story, but the side missions around it. With Cyberpunk 2077, CD Projekt Red has built an entire game around that philosophy. Apart from its surprisingly short but utterly compelling central questline, the vast majority of what you can do in Night City is entirely optional, but still extremely impactful. This more free-form structure isn't without its faults, including loads of distracting bugs.
Leave her alone, V.
But the strength of the missions themselves and the broad and interesting choices you have within them make Cyberpunk 2077 one of the most exciting RPGs I've played in recent years.
We know who you are. We know what you are. We know what you need. You are playing with fire. Don't dare cross the line.
You play as V, a mercenary in Night City who ends up with the psyche of long-dead rock star and anti-corporate terrorist Johnny Silverhand trapped in their head. Yes, that's Keanu Reeves, though his performance is actually a bit stiff relative to the rest of the excellent cast.
First things first. We gotta get into that house.
But Johnny's confrontational relationship with V is wonderfully tense, acting as the anchor of the whole story. Cyberpunk 2077's opening hours do an incredible job of getting you invested in their struggle, and then Night City's sprawling map opens wide. If most game structures look like a redwood tree with a tall trunk that has paths branching off as you go higher, Cyberpunk 2077 is more like a large bush. You don't have to go far to have dozens of tangled branches within reach. Night City is so dense, diverse, and consistently beautiful that there are opportunities to stumble upon unexpected sights and missions all the time. The scope is simply stunning, from the massive skyscrapers to the immaculately detailed in-world advertisements that are plastered all over them. Cyberpunk 2077 feels like an RPG through and through. It's full of rich, beautifully presented conversations and an almost mind-boggling amount of choice in dialogue,
to Scorpion,
character builds, mission approach, and beyond. What's more, those choices can have a massive impact on both V's own story and the characters around them. I once made a suggestion to a character that later lost him his job. That decision altered every future interaction, and knowing that someone else might have a very different relationship with him made my playthrough feel more personal. Similarly, I was shocked to discover one of my favorite missions early on wasn't even offered to another player because of a single decision we made differently. Realizations like this quickly became a common occurrence. The missions themselves are also largely delightful. My favorites range from infiltrating an extravagant parade to a series of detective missions where you actually need to collect evidence on your own, to a deeply touching scuba diving mission, all the way to befriending a sentient vending machine. The fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is able to have deep, affecting moments alongside lighthearted goofs and blaring sex ads without any of it feeling out of place is a testament to the strength of both its stories and the world they take place in. And remember, just because something is a side mission doesn't mean it's not important to the main story. Surprisingly, Cyberpunk 2077 only took me around 20 hours to beat the first time, but it was only after reloading a save and spending another 20 hours completing side missions and befriending characters that I went back to finish the story again and found my ending options had drastically changed. After 45 hours, I've now found 6
wildly different endings, and still have plenty more I want to do. While this freeform structure is impressive, it did create a false sense that I was failing to make progress at times. 3 percentages relating to different aspects of V's journey are presented like progress trackers in the menu, but they don't actually function that way, making them frustratingly misleading. Regardless, the openness of Cyberpunk 2077 is pretty remarkable. Beyond the big story decisions, you also get the good old-fashioned choice of how to kill, or politely incapacitate, your enemies. There are no character classes here. Instead, you invest points into 5 primary attributes, and then into perks within each of those. For example, if you're planning to go stealthy, the cool attribute can make enemies slower to detect you, and its stealth perk page is full of additional boons like increased crouched movement speed or unlocking an aerial takedown. Perks will also naturally improve as you use them, making this system wonderfully flexible. Combat opens up gradually as well. While I didn't love the gunplay initially, I eventually found unique weaponry and clever cybernetic augmentations that elevated it above simple pointing and shooting. Some guns can charge up and shoot through walls, while others fire bullets that seek out enemies. And cool iconic weapons add unique twists with flashy looks. Add in cyberware that lets you slow time, double jump, and more, and it's just a matter of time before you find some custom combination that clicks. It never becomes the most complex dance, especially with stuff like the fairly mashy melee options, but it's one that I felt I had complete control over choreographing. Of course, my V's policy was always to try sneaking before going loud. Similar to combat, stealth isn't much deeper than crouch walking out of sight, but planning my route and using quick hacks to do things like blind guards can be an engaging and fun puzzle. Like in a Deus Ex game, I was able to complete some missions without ever drawing a weapon, which is rewarding in a different way than cutting off someone's head with mantis blades. When things do get loud though, a special commendation needs to be given to Cyberpunk 2077's music. The soundtrack is fantastic throughout, but the combat music stands out, driving the pace of fights directly. So we have to talk bugs now. I've only been able to play the PC version so far, but even so, the frequency of bugs was a frustrating nuisance. It's nothing game-breaking, but hardly an hour has gone by without something going awry. And performance is only okay, even with very high-end hardware. That makes me especially worried for what last-gen console versions might be like. I've had important conversations undermined by characters glitching between incorrect poses, or referencing invisible objects. I'd frequently get calls overlapping with other conversations, and had to sit through drives with my character bobbing like I was in a run animation. During the few story moments when I did get to see my own character model, I was usually missing my customized hair. And while I primarily had visual issues, I did have to reload a save a couple of times when mission progress was halted. None of this stopped me from loving the stories being told, but they did dampen moments that otherwise would have been powerful. A Day 1 patch is expected, as well as likely many others after that, but CDPR has indicated it will focus on stability and performance, which isn't what gave me the most trouble. To be fair, its exceptional support of The Witcher 3 gives me faith that a lot of these issues could be sorted out with enough time, but right now, it can be a bit of a mess. In a way, I'm sort of jealous of people who first play Cyberpunk 2077 6 months from now, when I assume a lot of this has been fixed. Cyberpunk 2077.
Let's see what the launch trailer is about.
Night City? Man, I fucking love it. I was born here, I live here, and downright refuse to die anywhere else. What the?
170 people were killed in a cyber psycho attack shocks West Springs. This is N54 News.
Listen, kid. If there's one thing I can tell you about this city, you either love it or want to burn it. No middle ground. Coming here is a crash course in the survival of the fittest, the greediest, the most vile, and most corrupted gonks.
See this badge? That means I can do whatever the fuck I want.
But behind the blinding lights and all of the rot, you might just discover a beauty that can only be found here. Night City is full of love, friendships, and family ties that run deeper than any cyberware eddies can buy.
Zapper dumples and filth. In some ways, Night City never changes.
The city's promise. Not everyone's buying it, but if you want to know for
I'm
sure,
sold on this.
you just need to try it for yourself.
Approximately 1 year after the original plan, Cyberpunk's big now-gen update patch 1.5 has dropped, and it boosts various elements of the title across Series X, the S, and the PlayStation 5. Is it worth jacking in one more time? The latest patch offers a great deal to all players, with changes to the game itself, big fixes, but we are here to talk about the visuals and performance. The biggest update is of course the tracing of those hallowed rays, with both PlayStation 5 and Series X getting 2 modes now, one of which is a 30 FPS ray tracing mode. This is not available on Series S, likely due to lack of memory space as one major issue, and also the performance within the GPU would suffer too much, I would suspect. As it is, the little brother of the Series X gets only one mode of play. For the Series X and the PlayStation 5, the other mode is performance, and really mirrors the original mode they had.
And they're saying Cyberpunk is #1 as well. Alright, I think Cyberpunk it is. Yo. Alright. I think we're gonna get this game. So I'm gonna hop off, eat real quick, and then load back in within the next half hour.